with that. So we're going to talk a little bit about your background for people who might not be familiar with Yaloo's work and previous work and whatnot, and just talk about process and whatnot. We're going to have Q&A after. Did we ever? Well, whatever. If you feel like asking questions, you can. Preferably after we stop speaking, not in the middle. So first of all, I mean, it's a little weird for me when I got asked to be part of this because I'm coming from fully animation world, but I recognized immediately we had something in common through the School of Art Institute in Chicago and professor there, Chris Sullivan, who I know was an animation filmmaker. But your work, it's you dabble with animation, with mapping, video art, installations. I'm just wondering, to go back, what sort of came first for you? What got you in the door of art?
Oh, that's a difficult question. But I guess in terms of what I'm doing now, being trained at School of the Art Institute and being part of Department of Film, Video, New Media, and Animation was really shaped my current practice, because the department treats everything that's like a moving image.
Right.
So that's where I started.
Can everybody hear?
Yeah.
No? Great. So we have to project.
Right. Yell. Smiley face up. Yeah, that's the answer.
Well, I just wondered where did you study in Korea first and then go to the Art Institute?
Okay. So for higher education and professional art education, I started in North America at the School of the Art Institute.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was it about the Art Institute that made you want to travel quite a ways?
I got scholarship. As simple as that.
All right.
But yeah, I was very discontent with the higher educations in South Korea. I guess as other East Asian kids around my age, especially.
And what led you to want to work with installations as opposed to making animation films in a for a cinema audience?
Right. I guess that's also just me being a product of School of the Art Institute, because school really push students to be interdisciplinary as possible, and you don't really you don't have to be part of a department.
Right.
Though I took film, video, and media department as my like home ground, and then branched out. But still, I wanted to experiment moving images in different ways, and I got really good support from the peers and the faculty members back then. So yeah.
Do you think there's a difference in how a viewer takes your work in a space like this, let's say, versus a cinema?
Oh yeah, very different.
How so?
Because in cinema, you are supposed to forget your body and immerse yourself to the screen. But if the work is presented in a space, if you're highly aware of your body and you're interacting with the work in a very different way, but yeah, so I think that immersive experience is very different, and I enjoy it.
Now, right, as we've been talking about, I've been working on a book about collage animation. So collage, that's all I see right now are collage images. And certainly your work, when I first saw it, I thought, yeah, that's going on here. So maybe you could talk about collage and what your attraction to that approach of sort of appropriating other images, putting them into a new context.
Right. When I was putting together my portfolio in high school, I did more of like collages with like little objects and foods instead of like drawing and painting. And I really feel like I didn't really grow up that much from it. I'm just using like a different technology to do the same thing. So yeah, that's where I started. And then I pretty much treat the video in like the same method. I use all the layers of video as like a sculptural object, and then just move them around in timeline. And when I put up installation, and then I start introducing physical space.
And where does the inspiration for the images you used? You know, I've read grocery stores, K-pop bands.
I guess
Where-
just like everything that I see on web. I mean, it sounds very broad, but I think that just happens to a lot of people. I constantly screenshots and then grab images and then just gather all of them. But I feel like now I have like a better like a system that I kind of like I have a way to sort all the imageries in like a certain order and start making like a stories with my collection.
And in some of the work I saw, there's some overlap in some themes, dealing with nature, environment, I think the future of humanity in some ways, but also some images from Korea, like the seaweed or ginseng. You kind of address the issue of so-called East versus West culture and whatnot. Where did that sort of interest, like especially in your own country and the symbols from that country, was that something that intrigued you always, or did it take going to the West to?
I think like both really. Being educated in US really pushed me to think, like wherever you go, once you're out of your own hometown, like people ask where you're from, and you're always thinking of that question, and that question really defines you. So if I'm gonna be defined by that question, it's better to be aware, because whatever I do, people will see it that way anyway. So yeah, so I try to get more have more active control
Right.
through my work.
So I have to look at the sheet. I was trying to be professional there. I guess that was another question I wanted to know, just the process. I'm used to it with animators, knowing how long it can take, but this strikes me as such a big endeavor, putting installations together. Like, how long is the process from the concept to the first public presentation? That's one part. And to go back, when you're starting a project, like, do you have an idea in mind to begin with, or does an image you found maybe inspire something, or does it change?
I think really all of it. Usually it takes, I think since things takes longer as I grow older. I don't know if it's a great way to put it. Because before, I used to just make things overnight and I was content. But now, things takes few months. The project that I'm starting to work now, it's just in a research phase. That's even just to get to the funding, it took 2 years. So things are definitely taking longer as I am being more mature as an artist, I think.
Right. Well, I think in general the length of the project.
Yeah, so I guess I could compare with a traditional, more traditional animator, because those really takes time to create. If you're drawing on paper, there's a certain amount of time you have to spend. But I guess how I make moving image is a little different. So I guess big part of it is for me to learn new technology and watching a lot of tutorials and follow along, and starting with an example, I really have to learn how to make it into my own, and also trying to find out a DIY pipeline, because once you're using a high tech, it's really hard to do everything on your own, but there's a beauty into it. So and it's more about navigating how to make the works that it's genuinely yours, and just working with available means and find the right people to work with or teach you.
And in terms of funding, in Korea, is there adequate support for?
Yeah, for now it's really nice. So we'll see with when the president to be.
Right. You've done presentations all over the world, and I wonder how much those experiences start impacting your work as well.
Yeah, that really impacted me a lot. Because in art school, because I was studying in a very a small tight bubble,
Right.
so-called contemporary art, And then once I left school, I was going to a lot of like different places where they don't care about contemporary art, or they don't know what's contemporary art, or like the meaning or like of contemporary art is very different by different regions. So I learned a lot, and I learned a lot how to interact with people who's not an artist
Right.
in a professional setting. So yeah, so I think those really helped me to be more like more like a human person. And I think that kind of helps too when I create work.
It's a bit like the animation world, because everybody, for the most part, thinks animation is just this silly thing for kids. And there's this whole world of artistic, experimental animation. But we keep fighting that battle.